right, welcome to the Value Script. Today we have a very special episode for you. We're excited to present Shannen Hansen. She is a functional nutritionist, wholeness wellness practitioner. She has a podcast called the Thyroid Podcast. She has developed her own method of handling your thyroid and getting control of your metabolic health called the Hansen method. And she's an all-around amazing person. She's a mother of 4 kids. She has a thriving 6-month-old, and we are excited to have her on the show. So welcome to the show, Shannen.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
How did you get into all this?
So it kind of happened by accident. I sometimes get emotional talking about this, but so Cody went back to school, and I had
Cody's her husband.
Yeah, Cody's my husband. And I had just had my second baby, and I was struggling with fatigue. I was struggling with all these different things. And I also saw all these people around me growing and developing personally through going to school, through different things that they were doing. And I was like, I want that. I just don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I wanted to be a mom, a stay-at-home mom, but I wanted the personal development and the growth. And so the conversation between my husband and I was like, just go do something you're interested in learning. Like, it doesn't have to be, an accounting degree. So you go to work and make X dollars, to bring home to the family. Right. And so at the time I was like, I'm going to study herbal medicine. Well, I could not find any programs for herbal medicine that really piqued my interest and were what I felt was the right thing. And so in my pursuit of looking for something, I fell upon the Holistic Wellness Practitioner program. And it had a focus in nutrition, a minor in urban farming, and then all of these other things like aromatherapy, auriculotherapy, herbal medicine, just all of these things all in one. And I was like, and I remember thinking, and I laugh about this now, oh my gosh, I feed my family every day, so I should know nutrition. And I have a garden, so learning more about farming would be great. And then years later, people they're like, oh, you went to school for that? Well, what about this? And started asking me questions. And I was like, I am not making any money from this. And then I started charging people $25 an hour, which is stupid cheap, because then I was spending 3 to 4 hours afterwards putting together treatment plans for them. And I was like, I am making less than minimum wage. This is a joke. Right. And a lot of times I was hiring babysitters to watch my kids because I couldn't meet with them without. So that's kind of how I got started. And then I just kind of niched down into thyroid because, I was having my own metabolic chaos and dysfunction, and ended up being thyroid and all of the fun things. So diving into all of the research for that and going from there. That's awesome. So, one thing I didn't realize, we go to a naturopathic physician, and he, for the first time ever, did blood work, and it included a thyroid panel. And he's sitting there going through usually the thyroid stuff's at the top, and the blood work just kind of flows down the sheets afterwards. And he's going through this, and he's kind of like, oh, so looks like you got, he just starts rolling through this. He's like, looks like you got some food allergies here. Looks like you might have a little brain fog. Looks like you might have a little trouble in the morning waking up and being happy. And I'm like, wait a minute. How do you know that? Yeah.
You just went through 4 things at the top of the page, and there's some acronyms, and he's like, well, this is your thyroid, this is the active hormone, this is the inactive hormone, this is when your pituitary gland spits out, this is what your body does to it. But, he started rolling through that, and I was like, wow, it was fascinating. I had no idea. I thought my thyroid helped regulate my metabolism somehow. I don't know. And I knew if you didn't take iodine, you'd get a goiter. That's about the limit of the extent of what I gleaned from my medical training.
Yeah. Yes.
So, disappointingly enough, we have a family member that had thyroid cancer and has been seen by an endocrinologist for years.
Yep.
Years. Never could get dialed in. And we're talking about, this is a Western medicine trained endocrine specialist. This is supposed to be the person you see.
Yeah.
Right. Goes to our doctor and doesn't, sees an associate colleague of his And within 3 weeks, she's like, I feel better. That blew me away. Like, do you have experience with that, or do you have perspective on traditional, like how we approach thyroid traditionally versus and how that may or may not serve humankind versus like what you found?
Yeah. So when we get to the point of thyroid dysfunction, there's a whole cascade of hormonal imbalances already, whether that's cortisol. So cortisol and insulin are the base hormones. So if you're struggling with either one of those, like you're most likely going to have sex hormone dysfunction. And then by the time we get to thyroid, you already have all these other issues happening. And so people in Western medicine, we just treat the one thing. Right. So your thyroid is dysfunction. We're going to give you T4.
You get Synthroid.
Yeah. You get Synthroid. You get levothyroxine. You get whatever it is. And so my mom also has thyroid cancer and had her thyroid completely removed. She's struggling with the same things. And I'm like, please find someone that will prescribe you not only a T4, but give you a T3, because she has no thyroid hormone. And she's getting T4, but she's not getting T3. So she's tired. She's fatigued. She's, Do
you want to explain what T4 and T3 are? I'm hoping you do, because I don't know that I can. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out how
I'm just thinking,
sciencey do we want to get?
Right. No, I'm just, just the average person listening, is going to be like, get a benefit greatly from this content, right? But wanting to understand, like, okay, like all these acronyms, we're going to throw around TSH, T4, T3, reverse T3, reverse T4. I don't know if we have a little reference for what those things are.
Okay. So I'll do my best to keep this.
I mean, without alphabet soup. I mean, I'm not trying to trip you up either. But,
no. Yeah. I remember when I was diving into thyroid, I was like, what are all these T things and how are they all playing together? So
you might want to get your notebook out and take some notes. And not being facetious, actually, this makes a big difference.
It does.
It makes a big difference in not only like weight regulation, body composition, but man, just general energy, how you feel, and even how you can think. That's what blew me away was the mental portion of it. I had no idea that my thyroid had anything to do with my mental acuity.
Yeah.
But not to jump over you again.
No,
you're
good.
Like trying to make sure, take notes, guys, because this is going to get good.
Yes. So your pituitary, which is a small gland that's like right behind, like between the eyes, if you like go straight through here, it's a little tiny gland that sits at the base of your brain, and that produces TSH. And that TSH is then sent to the thyroid gland, which will convert it into T4. And from there, T4 is converted into T3. So T3 is the active thyroid hormone. And most doctors and physicians aren't testing T3. They're just,
Really?
Oh, no. If you go to like your GP,
the person
like
we spoke of recently,
and then maybe your T4 with it.
Wow.
And they don't start treating you until your TSH is like way out of range. Yeah.
Which is fascinating because like we were talking earlier, you said 60% of people have an imbalance with their thyroid, or a problem with their thyroid. Like, so with it being such a huge number of people that oftentimes don't know even that they have a problem, and yet it's not being, most of the time, not being treated correctly.
So wait, 60%.
Yeah.
So that means if two people are listening to this together, one of them has a thyroid issue.
Yeah. Probably undiagnosed.
Undiagnosed thyroid issue. And that's going to contribute to something they're probably not happy with in their body.
Yeah.
Right.
And
all the way down to sex hormones?
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, your cortisol and your insulin. And then if we're looking at like a pyramid, right? So the sex hormones is like that middle ground, and then thyroid.
Wow.
Yeah. So then, so it converts. So T3 is the active thyroid hormone. And then the reverse T3. So there's free T3, which is the thyroid or the body's like uptake of T3, and then reverse T3 is the bad T3. So if you have too much reverse T3, you'll see slow metabolism, your body slowing down, the brain fog.
That's what I have.
Yeah,
I have a lot of reverse T3.
I had that too, and once we got everything, all of our hormones and everything figured out, then I felt so much better.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Justin doesn't have a mic, so we will repeat his question. So the question was, with the T3, or these thyroid hormones, can you up your metabolism? Because Justin's taking a medication that he feels for his anxiety that he feels has slowed his metabolism down. So that was what he said in the background. If it sounded a little like Charlie Brown.
So I want to continue on this part because I think it's also important for people to realize that 93% of your thyroid hormones are actually converted in your liver. So if you're having fatty liver, if you're having like floating stool, if you're having any of those things, that can be contributing into like thyroid imbalances as well.
Does drinking, like if you drink, like most people drink, goodness, what do they say? Excessive drinking is more than 3 drinks a week.
Yeah.
Most people drink 3 drinks a day.
Yeah.
Right. So drinking alcohol, does that exacerbate this?
It would, because it impacts your liver. Right.
Yeah. Inflamed liver. That I didn't realize too, that impacts your growth hormone as well, because my understanding is growth hormone is released from the pituitary gland and it has a half-life of about 12 minutes. And so if it doesn't bind to insulin growth factor in the liver, then it doesn't, basically like you don't have it.
Yeah.
And so if your liver's inflamed because of whatever reason, there's a lot of reasons livers can be inflamed, and even taking Tylenol, we're realizing is much more liver toxic than ever thought of before. So if you take Tylenol a lot, if you drink a lot, worse is if you drink and take Tylenol, you probably are not having proper thyroid function. You're probably not having proper growth hormone levels, and you're probably not regulating your sex hormones or your cortisol correctly. Yeah. Your liver has a lot to do with a lot of things, but especially clotting factors, the obvious things that we know it does, but there's other things that I had no idea that it did. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Okay. So to your point, or to your question about, you were saying anxiety medication, right? So there are, I have a list and I can send this to you later, but certain medications will block thyroid hormones. So anything from, I'm pulling up my list, let's see, beta blockers are ones, and those are narcotics, antidepressants, steroids, metformin, which is a huge one for people who are trying to regulate their
type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then they're messing up their metabolism. Wow.
Yeah. So that will block TSH, hormone from the brain. Medications like lithium for mood stabilizers will also block TSH. Let's think. I'm just trying to pull out some of, I think those are the big ones that we got right there.
That's great.
A fun fact about 7-Up, since you brought it up, or lithium. Do you know why it's 7-Up's called 7-Up?
Oh, no. No, I don't.
Early 1900s, it had lithium in it. So it helped you feel up and happy because it had lithium in it. Just like Coca-Cola did have cocaine for a little while. And then they were asked to not have that in there anymore. And so they put caffeine in there instead, but because they wanted an addictive stimulant, because they sold so much of it with the addictive stimulant in it. But
your local drug dealer for a soda.
Right. I do that. In 1900 was cool.
Hey, so I wondered, so for people just with thyroid issues, even just that they know about, are there certain things that they need to make sure that they're being tested for? I just thought of our sister-in-law, she obviously was seeing a specialist, but yet wasn't, getting the results that she needed. And so
and that was kind of a frustrating journey for her, because she would go to her doctor and say, hey, I don't think it's right. And he would be like, well, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, because I don't feel like I used to.
Yeah.
Right. And they'd be like, well, let's do a test. Right. And then they would, oh, you're fine. Bleed's blood levels say, oh, maybe we need to increase what you're currently on.
Or we'll increase your medication or decrease it or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So how do we help empower people to take control of their own health and their own life? Right. What do they need to know?
What do they need to know?
What do they need to know? So usually what I tell people, and there's so many factors that go into this, right? Everybody has different root causes, especially we could open up cans of worms all over the place. But so usually what I tell people to start with is a good probiotic and a good digestive enzyme, because when we're under a lot of stress, our HCl in our stomach, so our hydrochloric acid, goes down because our body is using the sodium and potassium to create stress hormone, so cortisol, over creating stomach acid. So then we start our digestive system starts slowing down, so we can't break down the food. We're not absorbing the food. So simply starting with a digestive enzyme can have good impact, because that will also bring up B levels and iron levels. So another thing that we see with thyroid is low iron, low B vitamins, because those are absorbed in the stomach and we're just not uptaking them. So those are two really good places to start. A third place I would say is a good magnesium, because also, like, once you're under stress, any kind of stress, right? Like whether it's perceived stress or whether it's like an environmental thing, like parasites or fungus or mold or something like that, we just burn up that magnesium as well. So we'll start having a slow digestive system, gas, bloating, constipation, anything like that. And so the magnesium stores in our body will help with that as well. So those are usually three really easy places to start, in addition to obviously drinking water, moving your body, eating healthy food, those basic primary answers.
Are there, well, so as far as that goes, like with a probiotic and magnesium, are there one probiotic and one magnesium supplement? Are they just as good as the other? Are there certain that are better than others? Because there was a magnesium, I have it I was going to bring it over here, but there's a certain magnesium my friend told me to get. It helps you relax more. Like it makes you sleepier, because the more of the active form gets across the blood-brain barrier. I can't remember what it's called.
Is it the glycinate?
I don't remember. I'd have to go get it. But I don't know. Does it matter? Like, probiotic, do you just get Culturelle? Do you get... is there certain things you look for? Because there's a lot of things now say probiotic, and then there's things like yogurt that has some, active bacteria in it, and then some people drink kefir, kombucha, which whatever,
sauerkraut, kimchi,
right. Like, how do you probiotic yourself correctly?
So with probiotics, one thing that I recommend is staying on that probiotic for 3 to 6 months, and then rotating to a different one. Okay. Because every probiotic has different strands in different amounts. Spore probiotics actually get into the intestinal tract better than a lot of the other ones. So one of the big ones right now is like Megaspore. Even though it's a lower dosage, it's still going to get to where it needs to be versus being broken down by that stomach acid. So I rotate through. I'll use like a Genestra, multi-strand 50, and then I'll use a Spore, and then I'll use something else. And, so big things to look for is no fillers, right? Like no rice, no gluten, no whatever junk in there. And then I think I do have it on Instagram where I've talked about probiotics. There's different strands that help with different things. So if you're looking to get rid of eczema, you want certain things. If you have something like SIBO, so extra bacteria in your body, you'll want a Saccharomyces boulardii in there.
Because I have eczema all the time. I can take a probiotic to help me with that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay. I'll send it over to you because I don't remember which one it is.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. So what if you have like anxiety, depression? Are those regulated with probiotics too? Or does that
I wouldn't say probiotics. So anxiety and depression are okay. So
Am I too tangential? Sorry, I'm like the squirrel on totally up. Good. I'm always looking for the next distraction. So I apologize for throwing off your game.
You're good. So I actually just completed a new course in for, they call them HTMAs. So it stands for hair trace mineral analysis. And this new thing popped up, and she was talking about this condition called pyrroles, and I was like, I have never heard of this before. And pyrroles is linked to addiction. It's linked to anxiety. It's linked to depression and things like that. And one of the root causes that they're coming back to is copper toxicity.
Interesting.
And I was like, what is this? Wow. And it's passed down generation to generation. And so I was going through this for myself, and I lost a brother to suicide when he was 15. And so I'm like, check. And actually how I got pregnant with my 4th baby, because I had the copper IUD.
Oh, wow.
And I was struggling to get all of my hormones balanced. And I was like, the spirit just kept telling me, get it out, get it out, get it out. And I was like, okay, what else am I going to do? And got it taken out, because that was the way that I needed to balance out like my anxiety, my depression, like all of the things that I was dealing with. And then I got pregnant. So I'm going through like a copper detox right now. Mine has to be very, very like slow, because I'm still nursing. But so with anxiety and depression, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it's lithium based, right? Like they use lithium to treat anxiety and depression, depending on how those levels are. But also looking at copper and zinc and making sure there's the right balance there, because that can play a role in your hormones overall as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's.
So where does the copper toxicity come from? I mean, is it like in our water pipes, like the copper water pipes that we're getting copper toxicity from? You mentioned it was passed down from generation to generation. I was just trying to tie that together.
Yeah. So a lot of different ways. Women are typically more prone to copper toxicity because it comes through birth control is a big one. Cosmetics is another big one. And then like you said, copper pipes, any medications, there's a lot of copper that's in them. Certain foods have higher levels of copper. Like we do need copper, but so copper and zinc need to have this nice balance. And if they're not balanced, then copper will go up, and then our body doesn't know what to do with it. So taking, a good zinc can help with that.
Well, and is that something where somebody should really how do you analyze your copper zinc balance? I mean, does this all go back to, again, not a basic blood panel, but an in-depth blood panel?
Blood panels are not the best way to test for that. So the best way to test for that is, so minerals are stored in tissues, right? In tissue in our body. And so the best way to do that is through hair testing.
You did mention hair testing.
Yeah. So that's the HTMA, where you cut off a little bit of hair and they put it in a solvent and mix it up, essentially, and then they test the mineral content in there, and then they're also looking for heavy metals and all different kinds of things. So,
all right, did I throw you off your thyroid?
You're good. You're good. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
How did you develop your passion necessarily for this area of your life? Like nutrition, and I don't know. You guys, we always marvel. You guys just seem so totally integrated. Like you mentioned, the urban farming, you guys have animals, you have amazing children. They're some of the cutest kids ever. And they just seem so well balanced, and so well put together. And I think that is a reflection and a representation of how you and Cody, live, and your passions and all those things. And it seems like this just kind of fits right in there.
For me, a lot of it comes from the desire to break cycles that have happened in my family. And so every time I identify a direction or an area that I don't want to go, it's like, okay, that's a new lesson that I have to learn. That's a new place that I have to go. That's new research that I have to do, a new book or something. And so part of that, when you start with the thyroid, it really came from myself, right? And at the time, I didn't know this, but I was being exposed to black mold, toxic mold, which was causing a lot of my fatigue and weight gain and puffiness and all of the things. And, then as I went through school and started learning, it's like you start learning and it's almost like you can't shut it off. Like your eyes just become open to all of the things, and you're like, and I'll be honest, I go through periods of time where I'm like, I'm done. Like, this is too much. Like, I don't want to do it. It's too hard, know? But ultimately it's just more about breaking cycles and teaching other people, because I don't want my kids to go through the same things that I've had to go through.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
Struggles.
I love that. Good for you.
Thank you.
Breaking, some people may call them generational curses. You're talking, family cycles. Like a lot of times people don't even recognize they're in it. Right. It's just how we are. Right. And I don't necessarily think my cousin was describing a family curses or cycles that we needed to break when he said this. But one thing that we thought was just hilarious was one day my cousin was like, Carmichaels, we're the only people that can understand or stand each other. But that's just kind of like, we all just kind of feel like, yeah, we're all karma. That's kind of our a cycle that we can relate to each other, but it's hard for other people sometimes to relate to us. But I love that rather than just saying stuck in these generational cycles or these generational curses, you're looking to break them. Yeah. And that's amazing. Really, I think that's what society needs. Yeah. I just wanted to point that out and just spend a little time in praise there, because that's admirable and really fantastic. And I think, really that ultimately, I think a lot of times people end up looking at their life and it's kind of like, goodness, why am I not happy? And they can't figure it out. Right. And then they think, well, I'm doing everything right. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, what's your lens for what right looks like? It's probably very similar to what your mother or father's lens for what right looks like, and your family's lens and your cultural conditioning's lens for what right looks like. And maybe you're all unhappy in similar ways. There should be your clue. We need to dig in and go to work there. Yep. A lot of people don't do that. So I just wanted to point out that how spectacular that is. And like, not only that you recognize it, but then you're like, okay, now I need to educate myself, and I need to, and then it seems like as you've done that, you become passionate about it, and then it becomes, empowering. And so, how amazing. So thank you for bringing that up as well. Absolutely. I appreciate that. So if people want to find out, like, how do they get to you? Like, if people want to find out more about how to get control of their thyroid, maybe they're really comfortable with their doctor, or maybe don't want to make a shift, but they want to ask you questions or have a consultation or whatever. Like, what are the next steps for them? Yeah.
I'm pretty much all over the internet at Thriving Thyroid. I also come up with the Hansen method. If people Google search it, they can find me there too. I'm like number 3. Somebody told me that the other day. They're like, I just met you and I searched you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess I'm doing something right. But you like Instagram, Thriving Thyroid, thrivingthyroid.com is the website, all of that. So
fantastic. Now, what in general, like, are there some top 5 health tips or things that you've found that kind of go across the board? Like, most people are doing X wrong, or most people can do,
She's like, my list.
No, a lot of it comes back to, I think, the basics, right? Like, just working with a lot of my clients, I'm like, just drink water. Like,
right. Well, how much?
Like half your body weight. In Arizona, I feel like this time of year, like, I'm thirsty all the time. Like, I can't get enough water, so doing other little things like adding in like tiny amounts of like pink Himalayan salt or some sea salt for those electrolytes can help. Because obviously we don't want to be flushing out minerals, which you do have to drink a ton of water to make that happen. But, half your body weight, making sure you're sleeping 8 hours, try to be in bed by 10 p.m.
We're terrible at sleeping. Like, legit terrible. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah.
Like it is a miracle if we're in bed before midnight. It's just a miracle. And it's a miracle for, we don't sleep. And I think that has definitely impacted everything. Mm-hmm. We're seeing that. But with water, I just kind of had to laugh because we've done a couple of challenges, 75 hard one being one of them. And we're currently in phase 1, which is a continuation of that. And you have to drink a gallon a day. Well, for me to drink a gallon a day, it is about half my body weight in ounces of water. For her, it's like more than her body weight. Yeah, it is so hard. Ounces of water. So it's so really easy for me to do.
Yeah. Right? And that's one of the hardest things for me, because if I get behind it all, then I'm like drinking tons of water at 1 a.m, midnight. I'm trying to, anyway, it's awful.
I did drink 60 ounces between 10 and midnight last night. But I can do that really easily. Whereas
oh my God,
I struggle.
I struggle up all night, like having
I know that is the worst, all night long.
There's a lot of places for it to go here.
Yeah,
or like we'll have to do our 2 workouts, and like if we have to, which oftentimes we're doing a late night walk or run or whatever, and have to pee in the field or whatever. Like, it's terrible. It's terrible.
That's
so,
also
anyway.
been awesome. Just a little bit of humor. Where, delete it? Is that what you said?
Delete that comment.
There's something about peeing in the field. You may want to keep it. It may be our biggest hits. You know, I don't know.
Hilarious.
There may be a subculture.
I think
there
a lot of women would relate to that.
Right.
No, really though. Like, so we've been out walking, and Mary's like, I gotta pee. I'm like, well, just go. And she's like, well, easy for you to say. Like, well, yeah, it actually is easy for me to say, but at the same time, like nobody's around. Like,
well, I just saw jogger pants that have a zipper for women.
Hilarious.
And I was like, I could totally see situations where that would be amazing.
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. The ditch is the easiest place. Just if you're ever wondering, like that works well. You're down in the ground a little more. And anyway, all right.
So sleeping, like, what if you struggle to get sleep? Justin and I, we were talking about that Friday. So, you know, we started getting to the point, we started taking supplements to go to sleep, but we don't want to have to do that. But
okay, you want to hear something good?
Yeah.
Okay. So take out your notebooks.
I got it.
Just kidding.
Right.
I've been taking notes.
So, okay, really cool. So, stomach acid breaks down amino acids, right?
Correct.
Tryptophan is an amino acid that turns into, hold on, let me make sure, serotonin, which is your happy, and serotonin turns into melatonin to help you sleep.
Oh.
Interesting.
I
Yes.
take an SSRI
Yeah.
for my anxiety.
Right, because it's blocking that from happening.
If you could pick
So-
that up, since we didn't have Justin on mic, he just said he takes an SSRI for his serotonin levels, but he said he still can't sleep at night.
because it's blocking that pathway. So that's a huge reason why I do recommend taking those digestive enzymes, HCl with pepsin specifically, to get those stomach acid levels up to help with all of the other metabolic functions.
That's interesting. I didn't know until today. I was today years old when I heard somebody explain to me that in the presence of stress, which my doctor measures a couple different hormones, and I'm always at the top of the charts or higher than top of the charts. He's always like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm just high strung, dude. He's like, no, really, this is like bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that they take stomach acid, and then you said that the sodium and the potassium from your stomach, they'll use that to make stress hormones like cortisol and other things.
Yeah, zinc. So zinc is also in there too. Yeah.
Interesting. I had no idea. So if you're on an antacid, which I've been on from time to time as well, and then you also in the presence of much stress, you're already shaking your head, right? You're like, what's up? I know a lot of people on antacids.
Everybody's on antacids. And so Western medicine says take antacids because you have too much stomach acid.
Well,
the
it's a Band-Aid,
opposite.
right? Like tummy hurts.
No, it's the opposite. So when you have like heartburn, gas, all of those like, what are
Gas, GERD, reflux.
Yes, those types of things. It's actually a sign of low stomach acid.
Really?
Yes. So taking that HCl, and maybe off camera, I'll share a quick protocol with you. Because you want to, so basically, and I'll just share a level, you want to start low with that and then see how high you need to go to bring up those levels. And then hopefully by balancing out other minerals, you can come back off of it. So I'll give you just a quick example. I had my copper IUD taken out, and I started supplementing with zinc to help bring up those stomach acids so I could, balance out all of my things. Within like 3 days of taking out my copper IUD, I no longer needed to take that digestive enzyme. Like it was too much for me. And then I got pregnant and all the things changed. But
then everything changed.
yes. But my body was able to make the stomach acid that I needed in order to like help with all of these other functions really, really quickly. So it can happen really fast, but also looking at, a good digestive enzyme can help.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I've been told by a lot of doctors to take a probiotic, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'll eat some yogurt. Like, why? I never understood again, today years old, understanding a little bit more of the importance of that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And a lot of this is basic. I mean, I feel like basic stuff. It's not basic because most people don't know, but once you know, and you can just start with some of these small things, it makes a really big impact.
It impacts so many things. I had no idea. It's just crazy.
Fantastic. Well, Shannen, we'd love having you today.
Yeah,
Thank you for being our guest. I am confident, like I want to go for another couple hours. So I'm sure I'd love to have you back another time. But for now, I think this would be a great time to wrap. We appreciate you being here. So thrivingthyroid.com. Is that correct?
Yep.
And you're also on Instagram at Thriving Thyroid. I looked it up. She's there. And fantastic. And really some great content. You won't be disappointed looking into that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, we ask you to do your part by doing the whole clickety click. We want you to subscribe, like, and share. Always, if you have found value today, we know that your friends and like-minded colleagues will find value as well. And we appreciate you sharing this with them so we can continue to grow and continue with the show. All right. We'll see you next time on The Value Script.